The Asus Fonepad is a 7-inch tablet that can also handle voice calls, texting and all the other basic phone tasks, so you may call it a 7-inch smartphone if you want to. On top of that, it's affordable, starting at around $250 US. But is it any good? Well, that you'll find out from this clip. The first thing you'll note when looking at this device is how much it resembles the popular Nexus 7, which was actually expected since Asus manufactures that one as well. There's the same glass-covered front screen with a rather wide bezel, the same rounded edges with a reinforced rim, and pretty much the same footprint and weight. However, Asus ditched the rubbery texture back for an aluminum cover, and the whole thing feels nice in hand, so nothing to complain here. They also slightly changed the buttons and ports layout, as you can see. You'll notice though that the rear is not entirely made from metal and there's a plastic strip on top. You can remove it, although you'll really need to pull hard for it to come loose, and behind it you'll find the micro USB and micro SD card slots. Besides that, there's a speaker on the back, and there's also a 3-megapixel main shooter on some versions, but not on this one that we have over here. All in all, there's little to complain about this device aesthetically, except for one thing. It looks like there are some build quality problems with the Fonepad. On my unit, the lower edge joint between the metal rim and the aluminum back isn't perfect, and on another one that I have around, the paint on that plastic strip on the back has started to peel off. Seeing this, I checked the forums and it looks like others are complaining as well, so be careful about that. But how about the screen? Like the Nexus 7, the Fonepad also comes with a 7-inch 1280 by 800 pixel IPS panel, and it's overall a good performer. It's not the best display out there, but in this tablet's price range, you won't find anything significantly better. The fonts are sharp enough, the viewing angles and colors are pretty good, and while the screen isn't very bright, you'll be fine with it as long as you don't use the tablet in direct sunlight. However, I didn't like the glass coating on top of the screen. On one hand, it's incredibly difficult to wipe clean of smudges, and on the other, there's some annoying friction when sliding your fingers across the glass. Regardless, we buy such devices for what they can do, and the Fonepad managed to surpass my expectations. This one is running Android 4.1.2, with some light tweaks on top of the vanilla version on an Intel Atom architecture. There's a single-core Atom processor powering the whole thing, with PowerVR graphics and 1GB of RAM, plus 8 or 16GB of storage expandable with a micro SD card. But is this a worthy competitor in a world where others are pushing dual, quad and even octa-core CPUs? Well, I'd say yes. The Fonepad is clearly not a power horse. In fact, it trails the Nexus 7 or the Galaxy Note 8.0 in most synthetic tests, but in everyday use it's actually fairly snappy. And that's what really matters. Yes, there's some occasional stuttering and sluggishness, and yes, some modern games won't run properly or aren't even compatible with this slate, like GTA Vice City for instance. But the Fonepad can handle all the other tasks fairly well, including browsing, listening to music, watching HD and Full HD movies, and so on. As for those games, some worked surprisingly good, like Real Racing 3 or Temple Run 2, while some did not. And I believe that's because not all of these titles are optimized for this Intel plus Android combo. In fact, Intel has plenty of engineers working on optimizing the Android experience on their hardware platforms, and while things aren't completely smooth right now, I do expect to see improvements in the future, given Intel's determination and financial resources. We'll see. So all in all, I believe most users will find the Fonepad snappy enough for their needs, especially when considering the price. Like I mentioned above, it does run Android 4.1.2 Jelly Bean with some slight Asus tweaks. For instance, there's a redesigned keyboard that adds an extra row of numbers on top of the letters, and there's a specific notification tray with toggles and main radios and functions. If you don't like them though, you can easily ditch them for the default ones offered by Jelly Bean. Asus also bundled a large selection of apps on this device, some useful, some not that much. We won't get in depth here, I'll let you discover them yourself. However, I will mention that some of these apps can be displayed in pop-up windows, and that offers extra multitasking possibilities. For instance, you can have a movie running in one of these resizable windows while reading emails and chatting in another. Still, only a handful of apps can be displayed as pop-ups right now, but hopefully more will get this feature later. Alright, we came that far and haven't mentioned anything about the phone part of this Fonepad, despite Asus pushing it aggressively. And that's because for me, that's not high on my list of reasons to buy this handset. Yes, the Fonepad can handle voice and video calls, texting and all the other things a regular phone can deal with, on 2G or 3G. But I for one can't see myself using a 7-inch device as my phone. And there's one main reason for that, it's just too big. Too big to carry around as it barely fits in my summer pants, but definitely not in my jeans pocket, too big and heavy to lift to my ear, and too big to use with my thumb. Still, if you do plan on using this as a phone, the Fonepad can do the job and it encountered no drop signal problems while pushing decently loud and clear sound from and towards the person at the other end of the line. The Fonepad also offers very good battery life. With a SIM on board and 3G activated, this device will go for around 2 days of average use thanks to its large 4000 plus mAh battery and Intel's energy efficient platform. You can also choose between several power saving modes if you want to extend the battery life even further. Okay, so as we get close to the end, there are some other things I have to add about the Fonepad. First, the connectivity options. As I mentioned, this does offer 3G with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on top, but there's no NFC and no 4G LTE support. Second, the sound. There's a single speaker placed on the back of this tab, and while it's not impressive, it does push punchy and fair quality sound, especially with the help of the Audio Wizard app bundled on this machine. Hear for yourselves. And third, the cameras. My version lacks the rear-facing shooter, so I can't tell you much about that one. But it does bundle a 1.2 megapixel front camera, and while short of amazing, it does offer alright 720p shots for video calls and chatting. Last but not least, there's the price. The Asus Fonepad sells for around $250 in the United States for the 8GB version, while the 16GB option goes for a little more. Over here in Europe, the 16GB option goes for €250, but without the back camera. All these are of course 3G enabled and offer support for voice services as well. And that pretty much makes the Fonepad an awesome pick for the price-conscious buyer. The Fonepad is cheaper than a 3G enabled Nexus 7 and a lot cheaper than a 4G iPad mini or Samsung Galaxy Note 8.0. And while all offer cellular connectivity, out of those only the Note can be used as a phone as well, but for almost twice the price. Of course, all these competitors have aces down their sleeves. The Nexus 7 is very cheap and more powerful than the Fonepad. The iPad mini is sleek and looks awesome, while the Note 8.0 comes with a pen and a bunch of other features. Even so, if you want a good-looking 3G tablet that can double as a phone, the Asus Fonepad is definitely something you should look at. You're also getting a good screen, long battery life and overall fairly snappy performances with it as long as you don't push it too hard. The downsides? No main camera, at least over here, an annoying glass cover on top of the screen and some build quality issues. But let's be realistic, none of this should really be deal breakers for a $250 device like this one. Alright, and with that in mind, it's time to end this video. Thanks a lot for watching and don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel for more interesting clips. Also, I'd like to know what you think about the Asus Fonepad. Would you pick it over the Nexus 7? Would you use it as a phone? Or at least do you think it's a decent buy? Please leave your comments below, I'll be there to reply, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!